You're live, Kat.
Good evening, everybody. What is surprise in your life? Could it possibly be an instant opportunity for transformation? Well, from the creator of What the Bleep comes the not-so-little book of surprises. Welcome to the Kanavos Show. I am your host, Kat, and tonight, Deirdre Hade, a poet, artist, ballet dancer, and visionary, and her husband, William Arntz, who is a laser physicist and the creator of the film What the Bleep Do We Know, will share a mystery and a mystical journey into consciousness with you. I promise you, this is going to be a surprise. So Deirdre and Bill, I'm sorry, it's Will. His name is William, but he's going by Will, right, instead of Bill. Okay, Deirdre and Will, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's so great to be here with you today. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. So Deirdre, tell us how you went from a childhood in Tennessee, and then you had to deal with your mother's illness. She had terminal breast cancer, to the author of this not so little book of surprises. How did that happen?
That's a long journey, isn't it? So, when my mother was diagnosed with the terminal breast cancer, we spent a lot of time together. And one night, I was sitting with her and I was praying. And we didn't come from an overly religious background, so praying was not a normal thing, really. But I just was praying for God to help my mother. Mm-hmm. And a light came into the room, filled the room. We both saw the light. And we were like, who turned the lights on? And I don't know, I didn't turn the lights on. And then my mother said, oh, I feel so much better. My pain has gone away. So this started happening. We kept having these experiences together of the light. And the long and short of it is, she lived 13 years longer than they gave her to live.
Wow.
Had no idea why she was alive. They said to us all the time, there's no reason for your mother to be alive. She shouldn't be alive. The cancer did go into remission. It did come back, but she was a healthy, functioning person with it. Mm-hmm. When she did pass away, I witnessed her ascend. I saw her go into the light. And she said to me right before she left, she said, don't hate the cancer. The cancer was my great teacher, and I'm ready now to go into the light.
Wow, so that was a bit of a surprise to you at that point, right?
Very much a surprise. I found that hard to believe. But that experience propelled me into a life of study of the mystical worlds, of the unseen worlds. And I've always had visitations from different angels and different saints who have been giving me messages my whole life. So coming up to the book, surprise, Will, my beloved, took years and years of the material I've received and the study I've done into the spiritual realms. And he said, I'm going to pick out what I think the world really needs to know right now. And I'm going to put this together in a book. The only caveat is you can't see what quotes I'm picking out. That's what he did.
So, Will, we're going to zoom in on you now. How did you go from working on Star Wars high-energy lasers to film, What the Bleep, to this book, the not so little book of surprises? Take us on that amazing journey.
Well, that would take about, 40 years? 40 years. I mean, we could compress time. I started off as a physicist. That's what I got degrees in college, and I really liked it. But when I was in high school, my friends and I made movies to entertain ourselves. And so I'd always kind of wanted to make movies. So, but I went off and I did the physics, and then I got into computers. I programmed computers for a while. I created a software product and sold that off. And then I sold another company off. And now it's 30 years later, and I realize I have enough money laying around that I could make a little movie if I wanted to. So I decided, okay, I'm just going to make a little documentary about the stuff I was learning and a lot about science and spirituality, because I had been studying with various teachers for 30 years. So I thought I'd just put together this little documentary. One thing led to another, and the documentary kept getting bigger and bigger, and soon I had grandiose dreams that it was going to be playing in theaters around the world. Everyone said I was crazy. I said, that's nothing new. And I went ahead and did it, and surprised everyone. It actually did play in movies, theaters around the world. Kind of the joke is I just dove into it. It's really my first movie, and it was just kind of good luck that I had some talent so that it worked. So that's the 40 years story in 4 minutes.
And so there's that word surprise again. Were you surprised that the movie got in all over the world, that it was shown in all these movie theaters? Were you surprised that it got that big?
You know, I was one of the few people who wasn't surprised, because I had gotten a sense when I was making it that the information, the world was really ripe for it. There was like a pull. They wanted this information. People wanted when I made it, if you were spiritual, you did yoga, you meditated, you were kind of like off, you were in your metaphysical closet. You didn't really tell anyone because they would think you're weird.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but now it's so different. I mean, there's yoga, every strip mall has a yoga studio. No one thinks twice about, going to meditate. Doctors are prescribing meditation now. So things are a lot different. But, when I did What the Bleep, I felt it was right at a cusp. And, I was hoping that film would help push it over the edge.
Now, Deirdre, I really find your idea of surprise as a means of instantly transforming us so fascinating. And the reason I think it just kind of rang one of my bells is I remember as a child, I loved surprises. And I know I run into people, whether it's playing tennis or horseback riding or whatever I'm doing, that go, I don't like surprises. When did that happen, and why did that happen, and how do you see us turning that around?
Well, that's a very good question. And yes, some surprises are not surprises we would think of as being a good or happy.
Can you speak up just a little bit? You're little.
So some surprises are not as happy as other surprises. However, every surprise has within it a key, a hidden key to transformation. Because when you have a surprise, it takes you off guard. And in order to shift our consciousness, in order to change our thoughts, we have to get shaken up a little bit. A surprise makes us think out of the box, look at things a different way. I know for me personally, every time I had an experience of awakening, an experience of a really, I don't want to say transcendence, but transforming into all things, or an energy would come to me, such as an angel, I'm always surprised. I never see it coming. It just shows up in the weirdest places, like the grocery store or a gas station. There's no rhyme or reason, and it's really delightful. So I want to encourage everybody to look at surprise as a good thing, because God comes is a wonderful surprise, or I would say the experience of that God comes as a wonderful surprise.
Mm-hmm. So, Will, when I was reading through all the information, one of the things that struck me was how you talked about the power of surprise, because the pre-surprise you and the post-surprise you are different people. Can you tell us about that? I love that.
Yeah, and that's true. irregardless of the surprise. I mean, you're different. I mean, if no matter what it is, you change. And part of it, this was research I did for Bleep, that your brain chemistry changes. There's this thing called neuroplasticity, which is the ability of your brain to rewire. All the neural nets can rewire. Well, when the surprise happens, your brain is flooded with the chemicals of neuroplasticity. So suddenly your brain, you're like Gumby now. You can like take the brain and you can redo it however. And that's where if you use surprise for transformation, it's like that, it's that moment, it's an opportunity in the surprise. When you're in the moment of surprise, at that point, you can rewire the brain and you can change your patterns. To answer your question, why, people as we get older, we tend not to like surprises. Well, that's because you get into a groove. And unfortunately, when you get into the groove and you keep the surprises away, I mean, that groove's kind of a one-way track and you're not really going to change. So, embrace the surprise. Give yourself a surprise for Christmas.
I love surprises. Personally, I absolutely love surprises. So if you were going to give one tip to those people who say, I don't like surprises. I don't want a surprise. I want to know exactly what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen. How can you get them to shift into this new growth? Because surprise creates growth. And we need to embrace it. It's really important because you notice children run around looking for surprises and they are in growth. It's like when we become adults, we go, yeah, I'm not growing anymore, except maybe this way. So how can we get them to embrace surprise again?
Well, I would say, first of all, just to play a game. I mean, life is a game. If we can shift your focus, your perception of this life, that this is a big game. It's a big game board. And we're here in this game board to become wise, to grow up, to become awake in this universe, this world we live in. Mm-hmm. So if you can begin to just think of this world as a game, and then look for surprises. You could say in the morning an affirmation, presence, or whatever you call all that is. Show me a really good surprise today. Bring me a surprise. And you will get a surprise. Something will happen. And the other thing is to look for surprises, because many times we have surprises. Like we run into a friend on a city street on the other side of the world. That's a surprise. And we go, wow, that was pretty amazing. And whenever that happens to me, I think, oh, that's God or the presence saying to me, we're all connected. I'm actually in charge here. So always look for what's the message from that surprise, because you're going to find that there are more surprises, really good surprises in your life than you may be aware of.
Oh, I love that answer, because I believe that we're co-creators, and we can manifest those surprises that then validate things that we're looking for. Like with me, anytime I see a little white feather, I'm surprised, because the feather to me is what one of my spirit guides gave me when I was going through cancer, and said, you use this like a sword. Anytime you feel like you're not being listened to or you feel threatened, this sword, this angel feather, will cut through any arguments anyone gives you. So it's funny, one day I was looking through a book I had never seen before. I was in a library and there was a feather in the book. So we can manifest our surprises, just the surprise we need to grow. So Will, another thing that I read that you had mentioned that I loved was how a surprise is actually a reflection of us. How does that happen? And maybe that's what makes us so frightened.
A surprise is, I said that?
Mm-hmm.
A surprise is a reflection.
Are you surprised?
I'm surprised. I didn't know I said that. A surprise is a reflection of us.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. What do you think it means? I surprised you. I just asked you the question.
Yeah.
me.
That's okay. I love it. I love it throwing that ball around.
Yeah.
I think that when we're surprised, it is a reflection of us because you can't be surprised at something you don't have a response to. And if you're responding to it, it has to have something in you. You have to understand it. It has to mean something, or it wouldn't mean anything and you wouldn't be surprised.
Well, my favorite type of surprise is when, let's say, I read something and it's something, I read it, and it's something I never thought of before, never been aware of before, and all of a sudden, all these little disparate pieces kind of all click into place. For me, that's like that's like a revelation, right? When you think about a revelation is always a surprise because you don't see it coming, and it's a revelation. Oh my God! So for me, that's my favorite type of surprise is when you learn a piece of wisdom, which is why we put the book together. Deirdre had volumes this thick, 10 volumes, all this teaching for all these years. And so I went through, because as a documentary filmmaker, you go through transcripts, and I just started pulling out the quotes that surprised me, that when I read them, I thought, wow, that's so neat. I've never really heard it put that way in that context. That's so cool. And so that's how we didn't sit down with the idea, let's make a book of surprises. It was when I started looking through the quotes and seeing the quotes I was picking, I realized that was the through line, was the surprises. And I surprised her by saying, the book is surprises, honey.
Yeah, and then you were surprised that you were surprised. I love that.
Very surprised. And it was surprising too, because Will, having the sense of humor, picked out quotes that I think are very important for our world today. However, I wouldn't have picked those quotes for my first book because some of them are pretty they're very important and deep knowledge, but they're a little more in your face than I would have done. So we have a joke that if I put the book together, it would be all pink.
I love pink. Are you surprised?
But I did lobby for a pink page, and I got a pink page, and I got to put in some of my favorites. I got to add those in too. So he was really great about that.
That's wonderful. Do you guys have a copy of your book at hand? Can you hold it up for us?
I can. And this particular one, I've been writing all kinds of notes in it because I'm making a guidebook for the Not So Little Book of Surprises. I used it as an oracle because it's an oracle book. But here it is right here.
Oh, that cover is just gorgeous. I love it. Now, where can our listeners and watchers, because this goes on Spreaker Radio and it's also on YouTube and New Earth International TV, how can our audience find your book? Where is it?
Well, you can go to your bookstore. It's in the bookstores right now. If they don't have it, please ask for it. It's in the catalog. They can order it very easy for you. You can also go onto Amazon and get it on Amazon. We also have bookofsurprises.com. You can go there to get the book. So we've tried to make it available in every way that you can find the book.
That is great. Well, I as you could see from my notes, I did go through everything, and I even picked out stuff you guys didn't remember. So for our audience, I am going to be putting this on or sending it to Women's Voices magazine for one of the articles, and that goes to 146 countries, and hopefully it will be syndicated to Biz 360. And I'm going to be focusing on why it's so important to never give up surprise, because when you give up surprise, you give up growth and that transformation. So if you can each of you leave our audience with one tip on embracing surprise again, what would it be?
I would say your one tip would be in the morning to wake up and to say, I want to find the surprise in me that I had when I was a little kid. I want to find that surprise today. And because we are co-creators, the universe is going to say, okay, all right, sure. Is that what you want today? I'm going to bring it for you. So that would be my one tip. That's what I do.
Okay, and my one tip is don't just sit around waiting for the surprise. Stand up. Stand up and have a surprise. Turn around. Look at the world in different ways. You never know what's going to happen next.
I love that. Thank you both so very much for being with us today. This was such a joy. And for all of our audience, make sure you go and get the Not So Little Book of Surprises, because it's going to transform your life. Imagine embracing life the way you embraced it as a child. Doesn't get any better than that. So good night, everybody. Thank you so much for being with us. Join us tomorrow night. Tomorrow night I have a panel. That's Tuesday the 11th, and it's going to be on ascension. The panel is going to be on ascension. We're going to be talking about UFOs. We're going to be talking about ascension in the Bible. It's going to be every form of ascension you can imagine. Don't miss it. So until then, good night, everyone. Thanks for being with us. Until next time.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.